If you're watching The Prepper Historian, you already care about the uncomfortable truths of survival. And before we go any further, subscribe to the channel and share this with someone who still thinks warmth only comes from modern systems. What you're about to hear isn't romanticized wartime folklore. These are real heating methods documented during the Second World War era that most soldiers never used because they were too unconventional, too improvised, or simply unknown outside engineering and civilian defense circles. Yet they work today without electricity, fuel infrastructure, or modern materials. This matters because cold kills quietly. And history shows that the people who survived weren't always the ones with the best gear, but the ones who understood heat at a fundamental level. During the Second World War, entire cities were bombed into darkness, fuel lines were severed, and winter didn't pause for war. Civil defense engineers, rural populations, and blacked-out households developed heating solutions that never entered military manuals, but quietly kept people alive. Let's get into them immediately. How layered thermal mass rooms quietly stored and released heat overnight. One of the least discussed civilian heating adaptations during the Second World War involved converting a single room into a thermal battery. Instead of trying to heat an entire structure, families concentrated heat into the smallest possible space and filled it with dense materials like stone, brick, water containers, or even packed earth. These materials absorbed heat during the day from a small stove, candle clusters, or sunlight through covered windows, then released it slowly overnight. Soldiers rarely used this because they were mobile, but civilians did. You can apply this today by choosing one room, ceiling drafts, stacking water jugs, or masonry along interior walls, and heating briefly but intensely in the evening. The stored heat continues radiating long after the flame is gone, reducing fuel use dramatically. Why trench candle heating worked better underground than in tents? Second World War trench engineers understood something most people miss. Underground spaces trap heat extraordinarily well. While soldiers relied on body heat and blankets, engineers tested candle-heated dugouts where a single flame could raise temperatures significantly when airflow was controlled. The key wasn't the candle, it was the earth insulation. You can replicate this by using basements, earth-bermed sheds, or even partially buried shelters. Seal upper vents loosely, place candles or oil lamps low, and allow warm air to rise naturally. The ground stabilizes temperature, preventing heat loss that would make surface shelters ineffective. In bombed European cities, civilians built crude stoves from clay, scrap metal and bricks because open fires wasted heat and filled rooms with smoke. These enclosed stoves forced hot gases to travel longer paths before exiting, transferring more heat into the structure itself. Soldiers didn't use them because they required set-up time, but stationary populations relied on them heavily. You can still build a simple version using stacked bricks and a metal flue, even outdoors, then channel heat through a wall or into a mass bench. The principle is simple. Slow the heat before it escapes. Blackout conditions force people to cover windows completely, and many realized that layered fabric, cardboard and paper trapped enormous amounts of heat. This wasn't about darkness, it was accidental insulation. Heavy curtains, air gaps, and layered coverings reduced radiant heat loss dramatically. Today, you can recreate this by sealing windows with removable insulation panels, layered blankets, or even stacked cardboard with air gaps. Heat retention often matters more than heat generation. A lesson learned the hard way during wartime winters. Civil defense shelters experimented with seating layouts that maximize shared warmth without suffocation. People were arranged back to back with insulating barriers between groups, reducing exposed surface area. Soldiers avoided this due to mobility and hygiene concerns, but civilians survived with it. In modern application, this translates to family sleeping arrangements using shared insulated zones, layered bedding, and controlled ventilation. The goal is minimizing heat loss, not discomfort avoidance. These methods were never glamorous, and that's why they were ignored. But they worked. They worked quietly, efficiently, and without relying on supply chains. Every one of these techniques is usable today with minimal tools and historical accuracy. If you value real history and practical survival knowledge grounded in documented human experience, subscribe to The Prepper Historian, share this with someone who needs it, and stay curious, because history still has more to teach us than modern convenience ever will.